Hey everyone, it's now been 132 days or 4 months since I published my first YouTube video. Before I started, I was always curious as to how small channels got their first lot of views and started growing. And now that I have some experience with this, I thought I'd post a video sharing all the behind the scenes metrics to hopefully share some insight to anyone else who may be considering starting a channel, or maybe if you already have a channel and you're just curious. And although I'm over the moon with the video's performance, there is one key thing that I think really held this back from reaching its full potential. So let's dive in. The video is a game devlog where I document the early stages of creating a game. The video is 16 minutes and 7 seconds long, and it's divided into 5 chapters. At the time of making this video, it has just under 36,000 views. It's gained me 1,040 subscribers and has around 2,318 hours of watch time. It has 1,595 likes versus 20 dislikes. Comments are at around 197, though I've been trying to reply to every comment, so I don't actually know if that metric includes my own. I believe it does, but I couldn't find a clear answer on this. Now, to me, these numbers are pretty crazy. I've had a number of channels before, mostly focused around gaming, and I've made many videos, and I didn't come anywhere close to the number of subscribers that I gained in just a single video on this channel. Now here's the graph for all of the views for the video since it was published. As you can see at the start of the graph, it started off fairly slow, and then all of a sudden there was quite a big spike, and then after that things steadied out a little bit but continued at a pretty good trajectory, and then it hit a point around the 44-day mark where it began to flatten out a little bit as the video started to age, and then since then it's just been gaining a rather consistent, steady sort of daily viewership. Now here are the number of impressions it's received since it was published. Impressions being the amount of times the video was presented to someone where they could choose to watch it. So for example, on the homepage, a suggested video, and so on. The click-through rate started off really high. It peaked at around 24%, which interestingly seemed to be just before I had the first big spike in viewership and impressions. So I'm wondering if this spike in click-through rate is what initially triggered the spike in impressions, but I don't know if that was the case. After that, as the impressions went up and the views went up, the click-through rate began to drop, which is quite natural as your video gets presented to more and more people. Now, once someone's clicked on your video, another really important metric for the algorithm is how much of the video do they actually watch. For me, the average view duration is 3 minutes and 52 seconds, which is around 24%. As you can see, after the first 30 seconds, quite a lot of the initial viewership has dropped off, which according to YouTube is pretty typical. And then there's a sort of slow decrease after that until the end of the video. Okay, so you now know a fair bit about how the video performed, but how did this all start? I posted this video on Saturday the 25th of March 2023. Now that morning, I posted a link to my video on a few small Reddit communities within my niche. Now this accounted for a lot of the traffic initially. I believe most of the first 100 views on this video came from those Reddit posts. But of course, over time, these Reddit posts slipped down, and that's not an organic way to keep receiving traffic. And what I was about to learn was that the real power and scale comes from the YouTube algorithm. Now, a few days after posting my first video, there was a clear point where the YouTube algorithm just seemed to switch on for this video, and it went from receiving barely any views from recommendations to almost all of the traffic coming from YouTube recommendations. And by the time I'd received the first 1,300 views, YouTube recommendations far outscaled the traffic I was getting from any external source. This trend continued for the first 10,000 views to the point where external traffic became almost unnoticeable. What really helped was a really sharp uptick in the number of impressions I was getting. This is from sources like the YouTube homepage, video recommendations, search, and so on. Interestingly, the YouTube search actually accounted for far less of the viewership than I actually expected. For my video, I thought the YouTube search would be super important, so I spent a lot of time worrying about keywords and things like that, but actually, as you can see here, it's a very small percentage. Now, although at this point the external traffic was a relatively insignificant number, I do wonder if that initial viewership from those sources did help to get the algorithm going. One thing I did to try and help this along early on was experiment a little bit with the thumbnail and the title of the video. So there are actually a few iterations of the thumbnail that I went through. I spent a lot of time on this, and I also spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would be a good title for the video. And because I experimented so much with this in the first few days, it's hard to tell exactly how much of an impact this had, but I would say that I am happy with the final thumbnail and title that I ended up with. Now, I don't intend to do this for every video that I make going forward. It's just that this is my first video and I spent so long making it, I didn't want to spoil it by giving it a bad thumbnail and title so that no one would watch it. That said, viewer retention and other metrics like that are equally as important. So whilst all of these factors probably had a big influence, it's very hard to say what one factor played the biggest parts. Now, I did say at the start of the video there was one mistake that I really thought held this video back from reaching its full potential, and that has to do with the viewer retention. I put the music volume way too high for the type of video that this is, and it really made listening to the commentary in the video very difficult, and I completely agree. And unfortunately, after I'd posted it, there wasn't much I could do about it, but I imagine this would have caused a lot of people to click off the video early because they couldn't hear what I was saying. So yeah, lesson learned. For me, I've been absolutely blown away by the community that's followed along on this journey so far. All the people that have watched the video, given me feedback and commented. It's just fantastic to see, and I'm really enjoying the process of making these videos. If there's one takeaway from this video, it's that if you're thinking of starting a channel in a certain genre, maybe you're slightly hesitant to do so like I was for years, just go ahead and get started, regardless of where you are in terms of knowledge and experience. Because more than likely, there are going to be many other people at your level, whether that's experienced veterans or people who are just getting started. People are going to be able to relate to where you are in the journey, and they're going to find it interesting to see how you do things. And I think the more people talk about that, the bigger the community becomes, the more people get involved, and ultimately it benefits everyone. I'm a big fan of the indie community within gaming here on YouTube, and it's great to be a part of this. Everyone is super supportive. I've received great feedback, and I can't wait to make more content. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.